music. Joining us now, Dawn McVea with the National Federation of Independent Small Business. Hey, Dawn, how are you today?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic. Appreciate you joining us today. Wanted to get kind of an update on what you're hearing from your members as far as getting folks back to work. Let's start with that. How's that going?
Well, the situation has improved, but certainly still a struggle. On average, about half of our members are still telling us they can't quite find qualified workers, and that's still at a historical high. Usually it runs about 20% of our members telling us they have trouble finding qualified workers. And right now it's still ranging around 50%. So that's tough. Mississippi unemployment rate for August, I think, was around 6%. Alabama and Arkansas are outpacing us. They've got a low rate of around 3%. So I don't know. They're doing something better than we are. But we do need to get people back to work, because that if we got people working, we've got businesses running at full steam, and that's positive for the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you noted the difference here in Mississippi, because I believe you represent Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Oklahoma. Is that right? You cover that?
Yeah, I lobby in Mississippi and Louisiana, and then
okay,
oversee
that's
those
what
other
I
guys.
thought.
So yeah, I've got a interesting bird's eye view of what's going on around here. It's crazy.
Yeah. So say that again. So in Mississippi, our unemployment rate is slightly higher, maybe more than slightly.
Higher.
Yeah, than the others. But
Yeah.
I believe that was the case even pre-pandemic. Unfortunately, I'm sad to report that I think we were near the bottom in terms of employment, the top in terms of unemployment. Even prior, we were certainly ahead of the national average as for comparison purposes, and that's always been disturbing to me. And what is the cause of that in your research and from your organization's perspective? Why is it that we in Mississippi have a more difficult time in achieving a higher labor participation rate and lower unemployment? What's the deal there?
Well, we have it, and it's similar too in Louisiana. I think it ranges right around 6.2%. And
right.
Again, that you're right; those are pre-COVID type numbers, and so they are getting back. But I think there's a lot of factors that go into unemployment. We had hoped that turning off the federal benefits early would, get folks back into the workforce, and I think it did have a positive impact. Then, of course, you had hurricanes come along, which impact everything. There's just a lot of factors, and then there's childcare, school, so I don't know that there's one thing that you can really point to for why small business owners struggle with getting folks back participating. But like I said, we do know things have improved. So that's the good news of it.
And even though I know that you represent and lobby for small business, it ain't just small businesses that are having this problem. We heard last week, we had Stephen Moore on the program. He had just had a discussion with Fred Smith, of course, founder, CEO of Fedex, said they're looking for 25,000 people. 25,000.
It's everywhere. It's crazy. And what's crazy about it is that you have to wonder, why, because what we're seeing is people are paying higher wages. People are employers are being able to be competitive with the benefits they're offering again, where they weren't for several years, especially as it related to health care, after the ACA passed. So there's a lot of factors that have improved in a lot of respects. The PPP program last year put a lot of employers in a position to be able to be competitive and pay more and do some things. And so you wonder why no one can really find workers. But I think it's a bigger systemic issue that I don't know that we can solve on this show today.
Yeah, well, I agree. So what action, you mentioned some of that, your members obviously have increased wages and they are offering more competitive benefits. I know several have announced and published that they offer signing bonuses and all sorts of other incentives. I've even heard folks talk about, giving trips as an incentive. So
yeah,
they're getting creative.
small business owners always have to get creative,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
I know we've talked with y'all before about the fact that, they have to bob and weave and, and do what they have to do to stay alive. And so, you're seeing a lot of that. Yeah. Being creative, trying to offer, show up to work bonuses, not just signing bonuses. Like if you actually come in and do the work that,
Yep.
you were hired to do. We have a lot of restaurateurs telling us that, getting these folks to come in and actually work has been a real challenge. So you've got restaurateurs who had gotten to where they had a team in place, a management team in place. They weren't necessarily in their restaurant cooking or working and, helping around. They were working on their business model. Well, that's all reversed now,
Yeah.
so they're back in the kitchens cooking. They're back helping around the restaurant because they don't have enough staff to do it there.
Our guest is Dawn McVea with the National Federation of Independent Small Business. Dawn, does your organization have a position with respect to this gigantic budget bill that the Democrats are trying to push through up in Washington? Do you have an official position on that? And if so, can you share that with us?
Yeah, we don't like it. I think y'all were talking a little bit before about it. We, there's a lot of tax increases in that bill that are very upsetting. The more and more we look at it, the more and more we see that it's just not good for small business. There's been so many things that have been put into place over the years, especially after the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, that really helped small business, really got the economy going to where it was pre-COVID.
Yep.
If anybody can remember what that was like, 20 months ago, things were doing really well. Workforce was much better than it is now. Expansion was at an all-time high. Folks were spending and growing and creating jobs. And obviously that has stopped in a lot of respects because of COVID. But the bill itself goes on a tear of just taking away things like the small business deduction.
Right.
That's a huge tool for a small business owner to utilize in their taxes. Increases the effective top capital gains rate. Raises the income tax on individually owned and family owned businesses 2.5%, I believe. Raising the corporate rate, that affects our members as well. That goes from 21% to 26.5%. And another thing that's a little known in this bill that we just really don't like is it creates a mandate for small business owners with 5 or more employees to provide an auto enrollment retirement plan.
Yeah.
So it's that equals an automatic payroll deduction. I mean, people need to understand what is in this bill and how bad it is for small business owners.
And
it also creates a new federal. Oh yeah, I mean, and don't even get me started on that, right? Louisiana, right to work state, Mississippi. I mean,
Mississippi too.
You have to be able to do these things and hire and fire and do and get your business moving. If we are going to start protecting, the right to organize, you're going to have huge lawsuits. You're going to have huge problems for small business owners, and the PRO Act itself creates penalties and on small business owners that they wouldn't even begin to know how to comply with out the gate. The compliance factor with that bill alone is a nightmare.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear your position in opposition, and I'm glad to hear that. But we got a minute or so left. Wanted to ask you about how small businesses can apply for disaster recovery assistance, especially after Ida and these natural disasters. Quickly, we got about a minute, Dawn. How do they do that?
Yeah. Be sure they go to FEMA. I mean, they need to get registered if they had damage. They need to get that registered, get on the rolls there. Also, call your business insurance broker, get in touch with them, talk to them about, what type of loss you had, also what type of interruption you had, from the
Yeah,
business interruption perspective, because
got you.
that's a huge factor. I mean, without being out without power, being without roof,
Yep.
can't do your
Can't
business
make any
right.
money doing that. Yeah. Appreciate it, Don. Thanks so much for
Nope.
joining us, and we'll talk soon.
Thank y'all.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back on Midday. Stay with us.